Shlishi. Pasuk Ches Shlishi Ki Seitzei. Ki sivna bayis chodosh. V'osisa make legagecho. So over here, Rashi himself cites the Chazal, the Midrash. Im kiyamto mitzvah shiluch hakan. So for livnos bayis chodosh. Utekai mitzvahs makeh, that if you send away the mother bird, which is a positive commandment, ultimately it will cause you or make the opportunity available to build a new house. You'll be able to afford a new house. Why? Utekai mitzvahs makeh, to be able to fill the mitzvah, which is a positive commandment, to put a parapet on the roof. Why? Shemitzvah goreres mitzvah. Because one mitzvah engenders another mitzvah, and as all the various mitzvahs continue, there's a sequence over here. And if you build a makeh, you put the parapet on the roof, which is a mitzvah saseh, you'll have the means to purchase a field, not to work with two species of animals. It speaks about the provision of shatnez, wool and linen, mitzvah tzitzis. Each one follows the other. Mitzvah gores mitzvah. So I pointed out from the Chazal, mitzvah gores mitzvah. You do shluch hakan, you'll be able to do the mitzvah makeh. Makeh, you'll be able to afford a property, a field, and therefore, and animals, the ox and the donkey. So you should not work with both species together. So the obvious question is, a man doesn't have two nickels to rub together. You send away the mother bird, and as it says, that the Torah reveals the schar for two mitzvahs. The mitzvah with there's no financial cost. What is that? And it's effortless. Send away the mother bird. And the Torah says, arichas yomim. Kibur aveim, the most difficult mitzvah. And it says also, arichas yomim. So, the man, it's easy to do shlich hakan. There's no investment. You don't have to have any financial standing. But if you do that, you'll build a house and put a makeh on the roof. But how am I supposed to build a house? I can't afford it. The bank won't even give me a mortgage. Nobody would give me a loan. How are you supposed to build a house? The answer is, mitzvah gores mitzvah means that if you do the mitzvah and you have a worthiness, Hashem will provide the means to be able to do the other mitzvah. And if you do the next mitzvah, again, Hashem will provide the means to afford to buy the field and buy the two species of animals, not to work with two animals, which is Torah prohibition. And that's really life. When we say, Mizonosov Shalom Ksuvanom Rosh Hashanah ad Rosh Hashanah, a person's yearly stipend is determined Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. Now, what are you supposed to do with that stipend? Hashem is providing you with that stipend. Now we have a choice what to do with that money. To do the mitzvah, or maybe to allocate that money for something which is contrary to what Hashem wants. But that's bechira. Well, whenever we say mitzvah gores mitzvah, it doesn't mean you have to do the mitzvah. It doesn't mean you have to do it. You know, I was once by Rav Steinman, Zech Tzaddik Livrocha, and he asked the question. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin that Nebuchadnezzar, he began to sing the praises of Hashem, where his praises outpaced David Melech's praises. So he said to Gabriel, the archangel, he says, go and silence him. Silence him. Literally, the words are, slam him in the mouth. That he should remain quiet. He shouldn't, because otherwise, his praises are going to surpass David Melech's praises. So Rav Steinman asked, if Nebuchadnezzar wants to outpace David in Tils Shibochos, is that a reason to withhold it? Right? He has that right. And if he's deserving, he's deserving. So Rav Steinman said, if Nebuchadnezzar outpaces David in Shiras Shibochos, in praise of Hashem, and song, he has to be rewarded. Now, what reward would Nebuchadnezzar want? A share in the world to come? Nebuchadnezzar had no interest. That means the way the rod would have to manifest itself, he would extend his malchus. The Gemara says in Shabbos that when Nebuchadnezzar went to Gehenna, he was such a cruel monarch. The people says, when we were alive, we couldn't tolerate your cruelty. It was beyond the pale. You're coming to Gehenna also to torture us. It's just too much for us. I'm just embellishing what he said. So Rav Steinmetz said, so if Hashem would allow him to say Shiras Shbachos, he'd have to reward him. So at whose expense would it be? Humanity's expense. That means if his reign would be extended, people would suffer to a greater degree. Therefore Hashem cut him short, silenced him, that he should not. So I'm saying, very often, a person says, if so and so is given so much money, why not I have it? Firstly, everyone has a tailor-made life in terms of what are your challenges. There's certain challenges. One person, it's not a challenge, and for another person, is a challenge. When I say it's not a challenge, there's no way he's able to withstand that challenge. So if that's the case, it's not in the soya. So Hashem withholds the means. The other person, it is a challenge. He has the ability, but only God knows that. Or that person has a certain mission, and therefore he has to be given the means, and it's his choice to address that mission. The other person, that's not his objective. Therefore Hashem does not provide that means. We find Reb Chanina Mendoza, there's a baskol that comes out from Sinai, from Chorev every day. Kolom nizam b'shul Chanina benik. Shadai lo b'kav charub mi erev Shabbos and erev Shabbos. It's sufficient, a small measure of carob, which is almost impossible to survive, for him who's dailo. So he has nothing, and it's sufficient, and the whole world is sustained in his merit. I mean, he was one of a kind. Other people weren't that. Why? Because in the merit of him being able to meet that challenge of dailo, the whole world is sustained. Someone else, he wouldn't have survived it. So therefore Hashem provides for that person, and the challenge, the Nesai manifests itself differently in that person's life for that reason. So I'm saying, when you do a mitzvah, and let's say a person would be able to afford a house, mitzvah is mitzvah, but it won't necessarily bring about building a house to put a makeh. Because maybe something, maybe you shouldn't have a house. Maybe you shouldn't have a roof over yet, because for some other reason. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes that determination. There, the mitzvah could manifest itself differently. And therefore Hashem doesn't provide the means. Because no one knows the ramifications when Hashem provides something where it may not be in the interest of the person, therefore Hashem doesn't provide it. So we're speaking mitzvah as mitzvah, that if in fact you have relevance to that mitzvah, Hashem will provide the means to be able to do that mitzvah. There's the Orach Chaim HaKodesh in Parshas Zosa Brocha. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Zvulun, Yaakov Avinu set up a partnership between Yisachar and Zvulun. Zvulun are the supporters and provide all material needs for Yisachar, that they should be fully committed to Torah without any level of distraction. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to Zvulun, Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha, v'Yisachar be'olecha. Zvulun, you should rejoice when you go out to the high seas to do the business deal. Why? Because Yisachar is be'olecha. Because Yisachar is in the order of Torah, and tent of Torah, studying Torah. Therefore, as a result of that, it's like a person it's a done deal. He's able to buy $1 billion piece of property for $100,000, and he's going to earn the $100,000. He's excited. Whoever heard of such a thing? To be able to do such, to have such gain, such opportunity, it's unheard of. So a person goes to earn that 100,000, as difficult as may be, understanding the result, the payoff of that, the return is beyond one's understanding. Zvulun had such an appreciation of Torah. But the question is, that's only if you're going to succeed. If you're going out, you're going to succeed, and you're going to do the deal and come back with profits. So of course, so the Orach Chaim HaKodesh says over there that it's guaranteed anybody who goes out for the sake of Torah, he will definitely succeed. And since Zvulun went out only for the only reason was because Yisocha was Bo'alecho, and that was the objective. Vada Yatzliach. And since it's Vada Yatzliach, he definitely will succeed. Therefore, in advance, knowing you definitely succeed, there's no question you're going to rejoice. It's like you just have to go pick up the money where the money's waiting for you to take, and you'll be able to invest it and have that phenomenal investment. Because Yisocher, Zvulun was learning, Yisocher was learning, and Zvulun was going out, and it's guaranteed. Vadi Yatzliach, therefore Tzmach Zvulun B'Tzeisech. That's exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying to Zvulun when they go out. So when you do a mitzvah, you may not be able to do the next mitzvah. It may not manifest itself that you'll be able to build a house. Because for you to build a house, although there's makeh, it's not your best interest to have the makeh on the roof. It's not in your best interest. You know, right away you're hosting. Everything's l'shem shemayim. You have this party and that party, this fundraiser, that fundraiser. And all of a sudden you become Mr. Popular. And the guy that takes you off the cliff because you get a swollen head. Hashem says, you know something? Your challenge is not being humble or not humble. Therefore, you're not getting that house. There's no makeh. It's not happening. The zoning board is going to give you a problem. You know, you have too many kids. We don't build those kinds of houses now in the neighborhood. You know, there's no market. So the whole concept is, if in fact it's within your purview of choice, we'll say mitzvah gores mitzvah. But it's very interesting over here. What is makeh? Rashi says, Geder soviv legag, v'onkel is tirgein tiyoko kon tik. Shemeshamer mashib socho. It's like you have a tik. A tik is like a tik shel sefer Torah. You have the mantle. It contains what you put within it. So the makeh guarantees that a person should not fall off the roof, fall to his death. So over here the Gemara says, why? Why do you have an obligation to make the parapet, the fence on the roof, because otherwise you're allowing a situation to arise that there'll be bloodshed. How will there be bloodshed? Because somebody may fall off the roof. So by putting the parapet on the roof, that safety net will guarantee there will not be bloodshed in your house.